Right after the final cheers faded and the stage lights went dark, Taehyung quietly slipped backstage. No cameras, no fans, just him, breathing heavily, trying to hold everything together. But moments later, he couldn't. His hands shook, his eyes filled, and for the first time that night, Taehyung broke down. Completely, silently, desperately. And then suddenly, Jungkook rushed in. He didn't say a word. He didn't hesitate. He just wrapped his arms around Taehyung, holding him like he knew this moment would come, like he couldn't let him fall. Fans who saw it still can't stop crying. The crowd was still screaming. The lights were blinding. Smiles were everywhere. But Taehyung's wasn't real. Behind that perfect stage glow was exhaustion, pressure, and something much heavier than anyone knew. He bowed, waved, and walked off alone. Backstage was quiet. Only faint echoes of the stadium remained. Taehyung stopped, leaned against the wall, and took one shaky breath. That was all it took. His mask fell, and his eyes started to burn. He tried to steady himself, hands trembling. He whispered to himself, "Not here, not now." But the weight he carried the entire night finally broke him. A single tear fell, then another, until he couldn't hold it anymore. Taehyung broke, footsteps, soft at first, then faster. Jungkook rushed in, breathless, scanning the room, not as an idol, but as someone who knew something was wrong before anyone else even noticed. The second he saw Taehyung, his face changed, and oh hesitation, and oh questions. He went straight to him, and oh words, and oh speeches. Just Jungkook pulling Taehyung into a tight hug, holding him like he was holding the entire world together. Taehyung didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence said everything, and Jungkook stayed, shoulder to lean on, hand comforting his back, a promise without words. "I'm here." Moments leaked, clips surfaced, and suddenly the internet stopped. Armies weren't just emotional, they were devastated. Comments poured in. He needed that. They always take care of each other. This broke me. The world saw two hearts, not idols, holding each other together. This wasn't fan service. This wasn't performance. It was brotherhood. Real emotion. A reminder that even the strongest hearts sometimes need someone to catch them. And that night, Jungkook caught Taehyung. Every single time. The tears slowed. Breathing steadied. Taehyung stayed leaning into Jungkook's shoulder, not speaking, just existing quietly. And Jungkook didn't move. He didn't rush him. He just stayed. Because sometimes silence is the only comfort someone needs. Finally, Jungkook whispered, "Hyung, it's okay." No dramatic speech, just soft reassurance, the kind that reaches deeper than words ever could. Taehyung didn't answer. He simply closed his eyes, trusting that voice, pressure, expectations, endless schedules, and oh, one sees it. Not the world, not the cameras, not even the brightest stage lights, but Jungkook saw it. Every weight Taehyung carried, every silent battle, and tonight it showed. Taehyung wiped his face, embarrassed. "Sorry. I didn't mean." Jungkook shook his head, gently interrupting. "You don't have to apologize for feeling." That sentence alone made Taehyung blink hard again, tears threatening to return. This wasn't about fame, or fans, or the perfect idol image. This was two souls, two brothers standing together when the world wasn't watching, in private, where real emotions live. Taehyung whispered, voice still shaky. "Sometimes it's just hard." Jungkook nodded slowly. "I know. That's why I'm here." Sometimes the strongest comfort is simply being understood. A deep inhale, a long exhale, weight slowly lifting. Taehyung finally stood straight, shoulders no longer trembling, not fully healed, but stronger than a moment ago. Because healing doesn't need to be dramatic. Sometimes it's in the quiet rebuilding. Jungkook nudged him lightly, teasing, "Next time you cry, at least warn me so I can bring tissues." Taehyung let out a soft laugh. The first smile since the staged IT wasn't forced. IT was real, warm, human. Taehyung straightened his jacket, fixing his hair. The world would see confidence again soon, but now he didn't have to wear it alone. Jungkook placed a hand on his shoulder, silent support, grounding presence. They didn't make dramatic vows, they didn't plan speeches, but in that moment, an unspoken promise formed. When one falls, the other catches. Every time the staff called them, reality returned. Stage lights awaited again. But this time, Taehyung wasn't walking alone. Jungkook walked beside him. Steady, silent, protective, Taehyung paused before stepping back into the world. Jungkook looked at him. Really looked ready. Taehyung nodded slowly, not because everything was fixed, but because someone stood beside him. They stepped out, not as idols performing perfection, but as two hearts who had just held each other together. And somehow, Taehyung shined a little brighter, not because he hid the pain, but because he faced it, felt it, and rose again, with Jungkook by his side. Not just bandmates, not just friends, but family, back in the dressing room. The noise of staff and footsteps filled the air again. But Jungkook leaned slightly closer, voice soft enough for only Taehyung to hear. "If it gets too much again, tell me." Taehyung nodded, eyes warm, the kind of warmth only trust can build. Jungkook quietly placed a bottle of water in Taehyung's hand. An oh dramatic moment, an oh spotlight, just a simple gesture, the reminder. You're not alone. And sometimes, that's all someone needs. Taehyung sat down, breathing calmly now. Jungkook walked behind him and gave two soft pats on his shoulder. Reassuring, steady, familiar, not words, just presence to silent. "I've got you." As makeup artists retouched them, Jungkook kept glancing at Taehyung, quiet, protective, alert. Taehyung noticed, smiled slightly, and whispered, "I'm okay." Jungkook smiled back, relief in his eyes. "Good. Stay that way." They didn't need to pretend around each other. And oh fake smiles, and oh forced strength. Just two people who knew what it meant to be exhausted, overwhelmed, human, and that understanding was their comfort. Gradually, Taehyung's laughter returned, not loud, but gentle, soft, healing. It felt like watching sunrise after a long night, slow, quiet, beautiful. Jungkook didn't say anything. He just smiled, proud. Taehyung nudged Jungkook playfully. "You looked like a mom earlier." Jungkook gasped dramatically. "A mom?"
Yeah.
"I'm at least a cool uncle." They laughed, real, bright, and freeing. Because humor, too, can heal. The member walked by, smiled, and said softly, "You two okay?" Taehyung nodded, Jungkook nodded too, and they exchanged that look, the one that says, "Yeah, we're good, we're still here." Phones buzzed, messages flooded. The world outside was spinning fast again. Cameras, fans, noise, lights. But inside, something had slowed, centered itself. Taehyung stood taller now, not because he hid his feelings, but because he allowed someone to hold them for a moment. Just before stepping out again, Taehyung whispered, "Thank you." Jungkook shook his head gently. "You don't have to thank me." But Taehyung meant it, not for the hug, not for the words, but for staying, for seeing him, for reminding him he didn't have to fight alone. They walked out, not as perfection on stage, but as two people who had survived another storm together, and somehow that made the spotlight feel a little less heavy.